What's up, beautiful people? I'm here to teach you the framework. What is the framework? The framework is an easy system in which you can use every time you're using a camera, shooting your film, doing a documentary, and you're trying to make it look cinematic. You're trying to give it that gloss, that gloom, that oorah, that la la. I don't know, I'm just doing random stuff now. But anyways, it's just a system that I go by to just consistently get the result that I admire and that I like. So I'm going to break down 4 different frames and 4 different shots from 4 different films and walk you through the framework. Let's talk about it, let's work about it, and let's learn. Let's go. So the first thing that we have here is Sex Education, Season 1, Episode 6. By the way, I'm using Shot Deck. Shout out to them for the resource. About the framework is the first part. It is point of control. What does that mean? Point of control usually refers to what part of the scene, what part of the area that you have no control of that you need to get control of. More or less, this is kind of like something you have to consider when you're shooting outside and you have the sun, you're shooting inside and you can't get to this light, or you're shooting towards neon lights, like neon fixtures, and you can't dim them down. You have to control for those features by putting NDs, aperture, putting down your ISO, adding filters to your lenses, just to control that brightness and that light. So point of control is essentially what you have no control of that you need to adjust your camera so nothing is blown out. Cool. Now, here in this shot, the point of control, clearly the light is coming from the side, from his left side, and how he's hitting his face. So ultimately, I think the brightest thing on this is probably the wall. So what you would have to adjust your camera to is the wall. And then once you adjust for the wall, before you put your light, then you can start adding your fixtures and kind of controlling for that. Now, in indoors, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more simple, but whatever. So the second part of the framework is trying to find the best place to fix your frame, build your frame. This is like when we're talking about the triangle in the room. We're trying to find leading lines. We're trying to find interesting fixtures that we can align our shot and our composition to make it look cool. So here we have an over top shot and we're looking down at the subject, and you see the patterns on the wall. They're kind of giving that line that's kind of leading straight to him, straight to his eye. So again, so that is one of the beautiful things about the framework. You look at the best place that you can put your camera. Now, the next thing, shoot on the shadow side to create the most cinematic, dramatic, impactfulness. I don't know, I'm trying to use words. But anyways, you get the drift. To create the most depth, the most interest in your shot, always put the camera on the opposite side of the light. Now here, we're kind of like 50-50, but we're not on the same side of the light. The light's kind of coming from this angle, from the left, and we're kind of just really up top. So it's side light and front light. So we're not on the same side. So if we had to create a line, the camera and the light are in 2 separate scenes. So the fact that I can see the shadow side of his face and the light side of his face, we're at a right place. There you go. And just having this dark to light type of scenario always brings about cinematicness. So always look out for that. The next part of the framework, what am I going to do to put in this scene to make it interesting, all artifacts and all the stuff and whatnot. So these pillows, this interesting, I think it's Jesus or Aquaman. I don't know. It looks like Jesus met Aquaman. I'm not sure. But yeah, so this is in the foreground. His face is in like kind of the midground, and everything else is in the background. So all those layers is framework. Put layers in framework. Have 3 different layers, 4 different layers, 5 is kind of crazy. But yeah, always have layers. Something in front of you, but not blocking the subject, and something in the back of the subject that's not really taking too much attention from the actual scene. Boom, that is the framework. Let's go. Next shot. All right, cool. Beautiful thing. So if I were to walk into this scene, my point of control would be these neon lights right next to his head. on the right side, on my right and his left, I think. And yeah, I would basically put down my camera, make sure this is not blown out. And then now I would add my fixtures, I would add my light just to make it interesting. So now clearly you see, again, we're having this side light situation and we're putting the camera right in front of him, more towards the shadow side of his face. We're adding this interesting little red halo type of ordeal. I think we're trying to say that it's motivating from the neon light, but who knows? It might be or it might not. I think they added that. And I love the side textures in the back of his head just to illuminate his head, his black hair from the backdrop. And you see how you can kind of see this narrowness in this pathway. It seems like it's kind of like a hallway or an alleyway, and that deep downness that you see, this green in the background, again, that's layers. So we have the red on his face, we have the black side of his face, and we have the light side of his face, and we have this neon light right in the back of him. Again, these are layers, these are layers, these are layers, these are textures, these are things that I'm adding to the frame, that I'm adding to my scene to make it look interesting, to make it look glossy. Even the sweat on his skin is really, really intentional. But again, that is the framework, and that's basically how I would break down. And their eye light, make sure you never forget your eye light. Some people forget, but they're very important. It adds more character to the character in the scene. It just brings alive. You don't want black cat eyes and darkness. You just need a little bit of glass, that little bit of dark. It's like twinkle, twinkle, little star. Cool. This scene with Kiki Palmer. Now, what is my point of control? I have to control for the window in the background. Granted, we're not shooting with daylight, like the sun coming out of that window, so it's going to be easy to expose for. And you can tell that they're kind of motivating the light from the right side of this house just to make it easier on them, so they can stay here. It's easy, beautiful, pretty cover girl. Again, dark side of the frame, dark side of the subject, as the light's coming in from the right, still side light type of situation, hitting her face, and you kind of see that thing that I kind of told you to look out for. Light to dark, light to dark, light to dark. Look at all the interesting factors. Now, granted, she is in the front. These books are probably on the same plane as she is, but the fact that we have so many different materials, it adds so much substance. It has so much liveliness. It adds so much warmth to the frame, so that we can really look at this and kind of get that really home feel. Like, everything done here is intentional. And I love how they have the sun raking down the floor. It's just beautiful. This is glossy. Bam. Outside scene. This might be green screen, but let's just say it's outside. Again, point of control is the sun behind the character. They put the character there on purpose, so whatever that light source that we're playing as the sun doesn't overblow the sensor. Now we have the greenery in the foreground, and we have the sun in the background, and she is the silhouette. Again, this is perfect cinematicness. And again, even though she's silhouette, but guess what happens? We're still on the shadow side of the frame. Again, and we still get the light to dark type a scenario. She's dark, in the back of her is light. The green on the floor of these flowers, of these weeds, of these grass is dark. The mid ground, as we're coming up towards like the horizon, it's like this yellow, which is lighter than the green, and that's light. And then we get this orange red type of feel, and that's another type of darkness. Now you see light to dark, light to dark. Now, that is the framework. That's how you should look at it. That's how you should go about it when you're building your frames, when you're walking into these scenarios and you're shooting. Again, thank you very much. I love you very much. Till next time, there'll be your next time. See you next time. Subscribe, like, and we'll be all right. Deuces. Y'all.